talking landscape photography for tonight. It's been quite an amazing break that we've all had, and we're very, very keen to get stuck back into the show tonight. It's certainly something that we all enjoy doing, and so it's our great pleasure to be back and having a show for you tonight. And of course, we've got the illustrious Paul Hoelen and the ever-present Nick Monk with us tonight. Guys, how was your breakaway?
Oh, you first, Nick.
Cool, yeah. G'day, Luke. G'day, Paul. G'day, Mieke, who we'll get to shortly. G'day, everyone. Yeah, had a great break. I had a few weeks off work, which was a lovely thing to have over Christmas and New Year. It's not something that happens every year, so it was great. I spent some time with the family, went down to our shack down on the Tasman Peninsula for a period of time, and I managed to get away a couple of times by myself taking some photographs, and went up to the northeast of Tasmania and spent 4 nights, I think, up there sort of pottering about and just enjoying myself, and that was just before Christmas. And then after New Year, I got a couple of nights in. I went up and photographed up at Ben Lomond National Park, which is up in it's northeast, but it's more sort of inland, and a huge mountain plateau. And I haven't done a lot of photography up there, so it was great to get up there. Lots of wildflowers out, and I think probably we'll talk a bit more about that and everyone else's adventures on the show next week. So we don't take up too much time this week. We've done so much that we'll talk about everything we've done next week in fine detail. And Paul, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I've been busy growing my beard, Nick. You can tell.
It's looking good.
I spent New Year's deep in the southern Tscharke rainforest, and I was with 10 men on photo documenting an incredible men's sort of self-development journey called the Untracked Man. And easily one of the most incredible experiences of my life, like hands down. Oh my God. So I'll chat about that next week, but really powerful, really soul-filling, really damn special. And again, that's working on some of my imagery for the ongoing Light Collective campaign, which we're building towards the Tscharke as well, which Luke's been involved with, and Andrew Phipps. And I'm up in the northwest at the moment. I've just been doing some portrait work and actually some gimbal video of David Murphy's gallery up here, the Cow and Calf, which is one of the best galleries in Tasmania by far. And his work's exceptional. And so we spent a lot of time together and collaborating on a few ideas, and being pool sharks last night at the local pub. That was pretty mean. He's a bit of a shark, mate. I cleaned up one guy with five shots in the black at the end. So I put my stamp on the table.
Oh, well done.
They're pretty serious up here. They bring in their own cues, so look out. And yeah, I'm also just gearing up. I've got an exhibition opening next Friday night called Sky Dreaming, and it's all my abstract aerial photography from a large part of the last sort of 10 years of my career, really. A lot of my personal favorites, and I'm sharing that with a friend, Tom Polacek, who's a bit of a super passionate aerial photographer as well. And that's down at the Woodbridge Gallery just south of Hobart. Opens on Friday night, 21st. I've got it up on my Facebook page and on my Paul Hoelen Photography Instagram post. And I think we're limited to 50 people. So 2 sessions of a first and a second.
So put it out in our mailing list as well.
Yeah, that'd be good, actually. I'll pop it out there. And yeah, I've got a lot of work to do because I'm up on the wop-wops, not at home sorting it out. But I've just been doing all the promo stuff for the last couple of days and getting that already. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Not quite the Iceland ones that Mieke has in the background, but I'll get there one day.
I'm sure you've got plenty from all sorts of amazing parts of the world. So it should be an absolutely fantastic show. I really can't wait to see it.
I wish I could see it. I'm a bit far.
Yeah, I'll see if I can figure it out. I'm going to try.
With all your amazing gimbal skills now, Paul, you should be able to do a live stream or something like that.
Oh God, yeah. I'll try actually, because a lot of people obviously can't physically come and see it, and they're really excited that I'm doing it. So I'll try and figure something out.
Fantastic. No, that sounds great. And I really, really can't wait to hear about your Tarkine trip as well next week. So I'm sure that'll be pretty special part of the episode.
100 gigs of videos and stills. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting too to see you getting into the video side of things. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that as well. Yeah. Yeah, well, I've been I've had quite a busy period as well. I've been able to get away home to Adelaide to see the family and dodged any COVID bullets there, and then went away to Freycinet National Park actually for New Year's, which was completely unbelievable. I'm sure, Paul, you would have had Nick would have had the same weather. We had just the most incredible weather, just really when you wanted it over the Christmas New Year's period. It was back-to-back days of just absolute glorious sunshine. And so, yeah, and that's and then I've just recently done a hike out to Mount Field, and so I've literally only just come in the door and had a shower and jumped on tonight. So had quite a few things going on over the last period of time, and really looking forward to talking about that next week. Mieke, what have you been doing over the last Christmas New Year's period?
We've been working.
I bet you have.
Yeah, so we opened our gallery, the Alpine Light Gallery in Bright. Matt Palmer and I opened it on December 11th after an all-night hanging session. We literally finished, we got the hanging rails at 2 p.m. We hung our images until 5:30 a.m. and then opened the doors at 10:30 on the Saturday morning.
Oh, brutal.
And we were just, I think it was quite exciting because the day before there was blank white walls and it had been that way for a couple of weeks. So to see a gallery go from blank white walls to fully hung overnight, we were both quite excited about it. And we were definitely running on adrenaline for the next few days. We were open. We learned some good lessons. No need to open on Christmas Eve in Bright until 8 p.m.
Oh.
There was no one around. It was but anyway, and then of course we took Christmas Day off, which was lovely. We just spent a day doing pretty much nothing.
You would have been pretty much dead by the sounds.
But yeah, we've been open every day ever since 10 till 4, and it's going really well. So yeah, we don't mind. It's a lovely space to work in.
Absolutely.
And I guess we'll see a few pictures from the gallery a bit later.
Yeah.
Excellent. Can't wait.
Oh, I'm so proud of you guys. Like, not sounding facetious, but anyone that commits that much of their life and their resources and their money and their time to something like that is just totally hats off from me.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah. I hope you can come and see it. I really hope all three of you can come and see it.
Oh, absolutely love to see it. Yeah.
Well, we'll make a special trip.
Yeah. Oh, you had it here first.
We'll have the show out of the gallery. How about that?
I'm not sure what happens when you go that far north of latitude. All the way to Victoria. I don't know how I'll cope.
You did Adelaide once, so
we'll bring his passport.
Yeah, I'll probably have to. Yeah, I did go to Adelaide once.
Yeah. Is that as far north as you've been, Nick?
Oh no, where have I been? In grade 10, I went to the Gold Coast with a school trip. We went through Sydney on that trip too. I was there for 4 hours.
Yep.
And I was in Sydney when I was 1 month old, I think, or 8 weeks old. I think my parents took me to Sydney, and I've been to Perth. That's right. My wife just reminded me I've been to Perth. So
fantastic. No, it's great to hear.
I shot my brother-in-law's wedding actually over in Perth. So
sounds like you need to come to Vic to complete the.
I've been to Vic heaps of times. I've got 2 sisters over there, but I don't go over there very often. So yes, I should get over there and visit my family and come and visit your gallery.
That sounds like a plan.
Brilliant. So in terms of the gallery, that's pretty much taken all your time. I saw that you might have got away to Mount Buffalo or something like that as well, quickly, or? We
got up to Mount Buffalo because we'd heard so photographers come into our gallery and they tell us all this amazing stuff that's happening, and we're in the gallery. So we'd been hearing about the amazing wildflowers up at Mount Hotham and Mount Buffalo and Falls Creek. And so we had been checking the weather, and so yeah, we left as soon as work finished. We drove up to Buffalo and we got a sunset. It wasn't a very spectacular sunset, but I tell you what, just being out in nature is so soul enriching. Like, we just realized how much we'd missed it. We hadn't done a photo shoot since July last year.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was just wonderful to get up the mountain, and Mount Buffalo is a very special place. Anyone who's been there will probably agree, who has any kind of sensitivity at all. So yeah, that was lovely. I don't think either of us got anything particularly spectacular, but we both came home feeling full, if that makes any sense.
That's probably the best part. So fantastic. Certainly can agree with that, and getting out there and amongst it. And I'm sort of getting a bit, now that it's good hiking season, it's really nice to be able to get out and do a few walks and things like that. So hopefully you guys have a chance to get away and do a few more.
Yeah, and find that balance, Mieke. It's a big commitment what you're doing, and you're going to have to find your middle ground, I guess, for keeping your sanity and being able to stretch your legs as well. I'm sure you're going to be tag teaming a fair bit.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And we've committed to being open 7 days a week just for January, because Bright is quite busy in January, and then we are definitely working out which days are our weekend.
Yeah.
Are you getting plenty of people through the gallery, Mieke?
We were up until a few days ago, and I do think, I don't want to talk about COVID too long, but I do think this Omicron situation has got people quite scared, and there's quite a lot of people who have it. So what we're seeing is lots of people in Bright, but people avoiding people, which is fair enough. I totally understand. We've actually, a neighbour across the fence, their family has it, so it's close. And when it's that close, you know, and I know, you know, I've been watching Facebook, like so many people unfortunately have it. So I completely understand why the numbers are not as busy as usual.
And I guess also that, you know, being in a public space in your gallery like that, you've got those risks yourself. And is there, just out of interest, you know, if you're running a gallery, is there any particular things that you sort of had to think about that you wouldn't normally in terms of COVID and that kind of thing?
Well, definitely. We realized yesterday actually that we didn't have enough food to keep ourselves going. We just, because we usually just finish the day, walk the dog, decide what we're eating for dinner, go to the supermarket, get what we need for dinner. That's just, you know, how our routine is. And yesterday we just kind of realized, oh my gosh, if, like, our neighbors have got it, if we get it, we're not in a position to go straight into isolation. So we went and stocked up the freezer. We are noticing a few, well, I didn't go, Matt went, again, trying to minimize, you know, risk. But yeah, the supermarkets have a few things missing. So, you know, the delivery situation, things are backed up a bit. And, you know, we in terms of us, I think probably if one of us gets it, we've both got it, and we just have to shut up shop.
It's quite a stark reality to face like that. So, you know, very much fingers crossed that doesn't eventuate, because that's not really where you want to be.
No, and look, right from the beginning, we have a COVID plan. You know, as I said, I don't want to talk too much about it, but wearing masks and you know, getting people to check in and all that kind of stuff, we've considered very important. So there's no change in routine for us in terms of that. It's a pain to have to wear a face mask in the place where you work and there's no one in there, but you know, there's reasons people put that in place. So, you know, that's just the kind of thing that
that's the new world. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a reason I haven't come home yet. So I got on the phone with my friend Toby Story in Hobart, and he said, yeah, you probably don't need to hurry back, mate. It's like a clamshell down there and everyone's tripping out. So I just thought, it's pretty relaxed up here, and there's plenty of fresh air, and I'm not interacting with many people or anything, and still getting out to shoot. So I can work during the day in David's place and help him out in his gallery a little bit. So just that's one of the reasons I haven't come back yet.
You're doing some cooking for him as well, or just
no, just beating him at pool.
Okay, that's all right.
It's always relaxed around Murph, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sorry we don't get to see Murph. He's such a legend.
Can you get him on the camera?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's gone off to his girlfriend's place tonight, so I've got the place to myself to
Oh,
But he's this close to coming on the show. So if people don't know, Dave Murphy's one of the kind of great working photographers in Tasmania, and he has one of the top galleries here, and he has for a long time. And he probably sells more of his own work than anyone, actually. Part of the state.
And I also want to shout out to him because when Matt and I were visiting last Christmas, so when I saw you guys at Matt's place, we visited Murph and we said, you know, there's a possibility we might be opening a gallery next year if the right place comes up. So this was like before anything was on the cards. And he just opened his everything to us, like any question he was happy to answer. Like he was so helpful and so, you know, just really honest about his experience and his ideas. And I can't say that, you know, we're absolutely on the same page with everything because, you know, his gallery is very much Murph's gallery, and that is awesome. Like that is, it's the best gallery, you know, for there. But it doesn't mean it's the best gallery for Bright, if that makes sense. So, you know, it was wonderful to be able to bounce ideas off him and have a chat. And yeah, so thanks, Murph, when you see this.
Oh, he said he's had plenty of chats with you and Matt, and he's a pretty generous man with his knowledge, and I'm sure you got quite a bit out of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Mieka's put a fantastic presentation, I guess that sort of style for us together. So we might launch into that and see a bit about Mieke.
Yeah, I can't help myself. Once a teacher, always a teacher. So I put together a little bit of a slideshow just to, I guess, make sure that I don't get flustered and get caught off guard.
So much respect for how prepared you always are, Mieke, and how much thoughtfulness you put into what you present. It's a bit of a model to all of us, really.
Well,
sorry to interrupt. We just had a question on YouTube too. What's the address of your gallery?
It is 102A Gavin Street, G-A-V-A-N.
Let's write that in the comments too. 102A
Gavin, G-A-V-A-N Street in Bright.
Typing into Google Maps as we speak.
Thank you.
There we go.
Gavin Street.
Beautiful.
Got it?
Right.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Right. Oh. Gee, Bright's a big place.
Go get out, Nick. Go get out.
Even got a river.
Welcome to Bright, Nick.
You'd like that.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll hit share. So
Beautiful.
basically, my background pretty much started with art. So when I was in primary school and high school, I was a very avid art student, and I was very lucky to have some fantastic teachers. So I learned about drawing, printmaking, sketching, painting, and I think that background has probably set me up really well for photography, because I really didn't think about photography as an art form until I took up a teaching position up in the Kimberley. So in 2008, I'd been a teacher for 4 years already, but I took up, yeah, that was a funny story, but I very quickly was accepted as a teacher up in Wyndham, which is far up in the, I think you can see my cursor up on almost to the Northern Territory border. And I was teaching grade 5 and 6 up there. So I drove my little Mitsubishi Lancer all the way across to Adelaide, up South Australia, got to the Northern Territory, hit Katherine and turned left, and arrived in the Kimberley in the wet season. And these are my photos, the middle ones through the front window of my vehicle as I was driving. Very naughty, but there was like literally no one on the roads because it's the wet and, you know, it's not the time for driving. But what was incredible was the green.
Yeah, that is.
Kimberley in the wet is nothing like the Kimberley in the dry. And the colors were just nuts. So, and also I love animals. So you can see I've got a little frog on my finger. There were frogs in the loo. There were frogs everywhere. There were geckos on the ceiling. And then of course the boabs. Wow. And I don't know if you can see, but the bottom left, there's actually a bowerbird that had set up its shop in my backyard. And I think it didn't really like me looking into its bower all the time. So I went away for a weekend and came back and it had moved it. Because I spent so long watching it, because it was fascinating, because bowerbirds actually their bower is not their nest. Like they actually, it's a display home to attract the chick, and then they go make a proper nest. But anyway, that bowerbird had raided some poor kid's backyard because it had all the toy soldiers from the district in its bower. But anyway, so the really cool thing that happened that year was I discovered that a girl could go camping by herself. And what was interesting was that I had never really stopped to think why I didn't go camping by myself, but I just had this idea that I wasn't well equipped to do it. And then I met Jane, the lady on the bottom left, who was very inspirational to me. She had a ute that was all decked out, ready to go camping any weekend. Friday afternoon, she was gone. And I was like, that's so cool. So I went on a trip with her, and then I came back, and the next holidays, so the June, July holidays, which is the perfect Kimberley travel time, I hired a ute from Kununurra. You can see it's actually got the, sorry, my mouse is playing up. It's got the
wheels looking a bit flat.
Yeah, no, the wheels were fine then, but I did have 3 flats on the way. Oh, this one, the one on the right. Yeah. So that one was because I went up Wannamurra Gorge, and and because I was by myself, everyone was really lovely. I came back to the campsite and people were like, "Oh, you can come sit with us or whatever." So I sat with these 2 individuals who were also traveling by themselves, and I was telling them about this trip to Wannamurra Gorge, and explaining that I was like bunny hopping the whole way, and they're like, "Why didn't you put it in low?" And I said, "What's low?" No one had taught me that 4-wheel drive has a low option that does that stuff by itself. I was doing it in first gear. All these really tricky bits. So yeah, a lot of things I learned the hard way, but it was fantastic, and it was 10 days. And I put a little map there, so I drove around the southern part first.
A lot of driving in 10 days.
Yeah.
Holy
But it
smoke.
was fantastic, and it was a lot of walking. I was on a mission to go to every single waterfall that I could, which is very different to now. But I had to do that in the beginning to understand how awesome it is to be out bush. Now I take my time, but then it was all about the mission of accomplishing, all the walks that I could. So yeah, and look at the price of the diesel.
I was just going, what?
Yeah. So anyway, that was fantastic. And by the end of that year, with my little Kodak EasyShare point and shoot, these were my best photos. So I really did love, like I saw some incredible places, and even with my very rudimentary camera, you can see how beautiful the Kimberley is. So 2009, I came back to Melbourne, and I actually studied to become a librarian. And that year I was gifted for my 30th birthday a DSLR Nikon camera from my mum and John. And that was the best present ever, of course, because it was so much better than my little Kodak EasyShare. And I joined the Melbourne Camera Club, which was fantastic because I got to listen to people talk about photography. And I'd never heard people talk about photography as an art form. So this was new to me. And hearing things like leading lines and talking about the light and, composition in terms of moving yourself, rather than in your head composing a painting. This was all completely new to me. So that was fantastic. I also joined 2 online communities, and one I'm still friends with almost everyone, and that was the Australian Digital Photo of the Day, POTD, and they did have a photo of the day every day, so it was a competition, but more importantly, it was a community that just doesn't exist anymore. Like if you posted a photo, you were expected to comment on everyone else's work, and so it was a very giving community, and I learned so much from them. And I still really look up to many of those photographers because I just learned. There's so many things, like I didn't know what a wide angle lens was, and I couldn't understand why people were able to get so much more in their shot than I could. And I was trying everything and nothing worked. And I was so frustrated, and I wrote it underneath a photo. I said, how do you do this? I can't do this. He's like, you need a wide angle lens. I'm like, what is that? You know, like, and I think we forget how many questions you have in the beginning, and you don't even know in the beginning what questions to ask. So anyway, that was hugely beneficial. And I also joined a community called Redbubble, and I got to sell my work, and some people actually bought my work. So that was very encouraging as well. Probably the biggest improvement was in 2011, when I had heard so much about this place called Karijini. And I saw in a magazine that there was this workshop in Karijini. I was like, awesome. Great, I'll sign up for that. It was a bit pricey, but I was like, yeah, that's fine. This is what I need to do to get better. So it said you needed a laptop. I didn't have one. I tried everyone. No one would loan me a laptop, not even the computer shop.
Computer along, didn't you? Oh, that's right.
So I drove all the way, the 10.5 hours from, I was living in Derby at the time, Derby to Karijini. And I had my whole computer, my whole PC, the hard drive and the monitor in 2 boxes in the back of the car, bumping along on the old gravel roads. Get to Karijini, and I'm meeting the workshop leaders, and they're talking, and it looks like everyone really knows who they are. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, but I've never heard of you guys. And everyone thought that was fantastic. They thought it was hilarious, because the 3 workshop leaders were Tony Hewitt, Christian Fletcher, and Peter Eastway. And I'd never heard of any of them, and I actually got them mixed up. So yeah, people were very amused at my ignorance. And actually, I was so green that I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but I even sent some of my photos to Christian, saying, you know, I've been to Karijini, look at my photos. But actually, what I want to say about that is learning from some of the best photographers in Australia, you know, I just, and being accompanied, like, that workshop was incredible. So you may or may not have heard of these people, but they're all fantastic photographers. My friend Tanya Malkin, Sheldon Petit, Nigel Gaunt, Peter North, Peter and North. All of the, I'm going to miss people, but all of the people on that workshop were amazing photographers.
Oh my God, what a collection.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a really pivotal part in becoming a photographer. Like, I was so inspired, not just by Christian, Peter and Tony, but also by the other photographers who were on that workshop.
Yeah, they're all superb photographers in their own right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so I was still up in the Kimberley, and I needed something to help me improve. And there wasn't really a photographic community as such up there. So what I did was I joined the Australian Photographic Society through my involvement with the Melbourne Camera Club. And I also joined the Fédération Internationale de l'Art Photographique, or otherwise known as FIAP, which is an international representative body, and it's amazing photography, and it has an honours system. So for both the APS and FIAP, I decided that I wanted to try and work through the distinctions. And that was really helpful to me, because it gave me goals and purpose. And I think in photography, you can get a little bit lost, especially if you're looking at what other people are doing. If you make it an internal thing and try and develop yourself, I think that helps. So that was my method. Through that, I got a random email in 2014 from a lady named Agatha Bunanta from Indonesia, and I thought it was a hoax. She invited me to come to International Photography Week in Indonesia, and I thought it was kind of like a Nigerian prince email, you know, like I just didn't give it any credit. And a few days later, or maybe it was a week later, I got a second email saying, we haven't received a response from you. Are you coming? And it was all expenses paid, and doing a trip
fun.
around Indonesia. And firstly, I was
Oh.
like, well, how on earth did you hear about me? Like, that was my first alarm bell. And secondly, why? Who does that? So, so anyway, I at my dad's advice, I contacted the Indonesian embassy and sent them the letter and said, is this legit? And they said, yes, absolutely. Do you want us to contact them? I'm like, no, I'll be so embarrassed. So I said yes, and I met the most amazing group of people, including 2 photographers, Jens and Mustafa, who I visited in Norway and Morocco, and you'll see some of the photos later. So that was a really amazing experience. However, it made me realize that I'm a landscape photographer. It was very much a travel photography experience, and I felt so uncomfortable taking other people's photos. Some people willingly gave permission. Some of the photographic experiences were set up, totally fine with that. But sometimes you could tell that people weren't really keen on having their photo taken, and some of the group were really quite pushy about it. And I just, I don't cope well with that kind of thing. I think it's got to go both ways. If people are happy to have the experience, great. If people are not happy, great. But you've got to give them the choice. And in a couple of situations, it really was a very uncomfortable experience. So yeah, it just made me realize landscapes, you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, so from now, that was pretty much my little background thing. I'll just stop sharing for a sec. So so that was pretty much what got me into photography. By then I was totally hooked, and I've just kind of continued. So now I've just got photos from the Kimberley and from all my travels. And if you want to chat instead of me talking, that would be great.
Oh, we can do that, of course. Beautiful. I just wanted to say something about the or discuss the you had the Australian Digital Photo of the Day and Redbubble. Now I'm aware of Redbubble, and I was a member of that, and I was a member of other forums sort of back in the sort of early to mid to late 2000s that have sort of gone by the wayside. And I don't know if it's just because I'm not needing the support that I did when I was an early photographer, where I was asking a lot of questions and needing to learn a lot. But it seems to me that Facebook has changed the dynamic of those interactions. They seem to be a lot. I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure there are Facebook groups that are very good, and there are some, of course.
But I think YouTube would too. I mean, you just have to
Yeah.
go on there and search for anything you need to know, and it's pretty much on there.
I
but it
what's
seems to be.
changed. I think what's changed is the giving of information on an individual interaction level. Now you can go and find the information. The information is there, but it's a one-way. It's a one-way give, and it's a one-way take, if that makes sense. Like, people put information out there, you find it and you take it in. Whereas when I was doing POTD and Redbubble, it was very interactive. Like, you asked a question, someone replied. And even with Redbubble, like, that was a real community too in the beginning. And you know, you really could you really felt like you were talking to real people right now. And there wasn't that lag, there wasn't that delay. Is that what you mean, Nick?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just seems to be different now. The world's changed, obviously.
The world's changed. I think everyone's just busy now. You know, like, I will always answer questions. I get bombarded with questions though, so please don't ask me too many. But you know, yeah, I will always answer questions, but I don't have time to go and comment on people's work. That's the truth. I just like, it's hard enough to find the time to say thank you for people who are commenting on mine. Whereas POTD, it just wasn't like that. You uploaded a photo, you commented on a few, and then you left. It's very different now. I really have to agree with you. No one's got that kind of time anymore.
Yep.
I think Facebook's also just taken all of those sort of community groups and sort of put them on their platform, and there's just not that many like places now that are off Facebook or off those sort of platforms that kind of have those I don't know, bulletin boards or forums or what have you. So I think that's a big part of it.
And I think we've learned, rightly or wrongly, to be more abrupt, ruder. Just generally, I think Facebook has drawn us into a type of interaction that wasn't the same back then, if you know what I mean. I think we've just become a lot more used to social media, and you know, things have changed, and it's just a different experience. I mean, I've got very fond memories of those types of sites, but it's probably also to do with the fact that I was very much learning during that period. I mean, I'm still learning now, of course, but it's a different type of learning to what it was back then. You know, I just thought I'd bring that up because it reminded me of it.
No, I completely agree. And I think, you know, like when people ask me how they can improve, you know, I wish I could recommend something like POTD. But there isn't anything like POTD. You know, like there are great communities. Like I'll give a shout out to the Focus Landscape and Seascape group. They are a fantastic group, and you can definitely solicit feedback. But I guess that's the thing. It's the soliciting. Like in the past, you were just very gentle, always very gentle. You didn't ask for feedback, but you had to provide critique if you were posting. So, you know, if there was something that was really, really bad and you didn't think you could be nice about it, you didn't comment. But also, if you did think that you could give constructive criticism, then you did. Anyway, shall I go back to the Kimberley?
Yeah, I was just interested too in the FIAP and the APS and that sort of stuff in terms of what your goals actually were in terms of getting engaged with that. And I guess I totally agree and understand about having a goal and working towards that, and at least having a sort of a staged process really can like give you a lot of motivation to improve your photography as well.
Well, that's what I liked. I liked the structure. So in the beginning, you enter national, so you can do them in tandem. So you can actually work through the levels with the same set, almost the same set of photographs. You have to have great record keeping, be prepared. But basically it's working through, in the beginning, you're just trying to get acceptances into exhibitions. And these exhibitions are not the kind of exhibitions that are at the National Gallery. These are exhibitions of work of that competition. So you can interchangeably call it a competition or an exhibition or a salon. But basically,
salon's a very European word, isn't it?
Salon is a very European word, and FIAP uses it a lot, but it's all the same thing. So you enter your work. Usually you enter roughly 4 categories. They might be, just as an example, black and white, color, nature, and landscape, just as an example. You enter 4 images in each of those categories, so you can get 16 results. In the beginning, you're just looking for acceptances, and the judges will either accept the work for exhibition or not accept it, and then they'll choose some of those works to receive awards. So in the beginning, you're just trying to get acceptances, but then of course, at some point in time, you get like an honorable mention or a merit, and you go, "Oh, yay!" And you get a certificate in the mail, and you think, "Whoop, whoop." And then you're like, "Well, what does it take to get a medal?" You know, and then you get your first medal, and you're like, "Whoop, whoop." And then it actually comes in the mail, an actual medal. Like, oh my God, I thought only sports people got medals, you know, and then you're hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see why. It's nice to always have something to hang up on the medal piece or what have you. So,
well, and especially I think, you know, not everyone is like this, but having, as you say, a structure with consistent and measurable goals is really helpful for self-improvement, really helpful.
Did you also look to online photography competitions and other things like that or you're sort of more focused on that more progression through those societies?
There were a couple that I consistently entered. Like I've entered the Pano Awards forever, just because
I did very well. 1 year, was it last year? I can't quite remember now.
3 years ago?
2019.
Yeah.
So something like that. And the other competition that I entered religiously was the Top Emerging Photographers Comp. In the beginning, it was a collection of 6 images. It was a portfolio of 6 images. And, you know, anyone can pull together 3 images, but putting together 6 images as a portfolio, that was a challenge. So that was like an all-year challenge to try and put together a strong portfolio of images. But other online competitions, like I didn't know the difference. I didn't know how to pick what was a good one, what was a, you know, a rubbish one. You know, there are some out there where it's the same people who judge every year, and they say that other people are judging, but they're not. When you scratch the surface a bit, they're dodgy. You know, and I didn't know how to assess them. So yeah, the competitions like the Peter Eastway's Better Photography competition, that kind of competition I think is fantastic because it gives you feedback. Yeah, but in the beginning, yeah, no, I was really just entering those competitions because they're expensive too. Like you can expect to fork out a fair bit. One international competition, you know, that you're entering 16 images for, you might have to pay €45. And when you're talking about needing 300 acceptances, we're talking, you know, good money.
A lot of money, yeah. But the results are there too, so it's just part of that.
The way I figured it, I had no school, no university. I wasn't studying. This was my study. This was my learning tool. This was my self-improvement tool. And if you compare, you know, I mean, I got there. I've had people say to me, you don't have any qualifications. I'm like, I don't need any qualifications. I've done my training. But, you know, like it's choosing. That's the choice. That's what I wanted as my qualifications, was to work through that system.
You've got a PhD in results, Mieke. That's the main thing.
Thanks, Luke. Okay, so shall we get to these photos now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So
Doug was asking €45 a submission of 16 or per image?
No, for the 16. Yeah.
And you needed 300.
Yeah, and I'll put in a little plug at this point in time. I used to run a workshop on entering photography competitions. It was a 2-hour workshop. There's so much involved. I didn't make that into a recorded workshop because the competitions are changing all the time, and I was going to have to update the information that I sent out constantly. But I can run that as a one-on-one tutorial if anyone wants to do it, because I have it that's set up like a workshop, and I'm very happy to go through that. So yeah. Okay, photos. So what I've done is I've got my photos from the very earliest through to now. So this is the Derby Jetty. It is
one of a kind, isn't it?
It is, but oh my gosh, talk about oversaturation.
I was going to say, I haven't seen the water that color before.
Some sort of shark cull or something. Is it crocodile?
Yeah, usually this is a very brown.
Very brown.
Yeah, very, very brown. And I think that's why everyone in Derby liked it so much, was because they'd never seen it like this. And it was a spectacular sunset, you can tell. But yeah, there was, I color corrected, the trick was I color corrected the fence. So the fence looked white. But actually everything clearly has quite a strong magenta cast. Boabs. Love the Boabs. They're
like people and trees.
They are, and people recognize them. People will know which Boab you took a photo of because they are like people. This particular day, the only reason I was out taking photos was because of POTD. So we had actually agreed, we'd agreed to all meet and go out and take photos that night, or that sunset, because we couldn't meet in person. And I was feeling like I didn't really want to do it. But because I'd agreed with everyone that that's what I was going to do, I was out there. And without that, I wouldn't have captured this cloud, which was very crazy. Yeah, it looks a little bit like the luck dragon.
You don't see a lot of cloud like that up there, especially for about half a year.
No, and this one actually made the front cover of the Bureau of Meteorology weather calendar.
I have that one.
Yeah. And I asked them what the cloud was called, and they said there is no name for that cloud.
Wow.
So it was.
That means you get to name it, doesn't it?
the Mieke Cumulus. No, I loved being out on the mudflats. I really did. It was the first time that I'd ever been in a place where you could just see a horizon and know that you can just travel towards it for as long as you want to go, and nothing will stop you. Like, it was, except the tide. You do have to watch the tide. But yeah, that was pretty special.
Wow.
So that's just at the back of the Derby wetlands. Now, this is my favourite boab tree. This is the dinner camp tree on the edge of the Derby mudflats, and I have a photo of it in the dry season and a photo of it in the wet season, and lots of other versions of it. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to show the transformation. Like, that is a real transformation.
Yeah.
And we've only got 3 native deciduous trees in Australia, the Nothophagus.
How do you line them up so perfectly?
Well, it was this is the thing. It was the right angle for the tree. Like, it's not the car park shot. It's actually me walking around going, this is the best shape that this tree can get. But anyway, so that we've got 3 native deciduous trees, the Nothophagus guineae, which you know about because it's the Tassie beech tree. And then there's a cedar, and then there's the boab. And the boab actually changes colour. So there's only the 3 that change colour. All the rest of our trees in Australia, native trees, are evergreen. But anyway, that's what I did.
Oh, you combined them. That's awesome.
I did.
Wow.
I did.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's it under the stars with a bit of light painting.
That looks like a spotlight on
So
it.
you do, obviously, the quality of these images is quite poor. But you can see I was like, I was on the right track. What I really liked about this one was it looked like the moon was coming up in the tree.
It's cradling it, yeah.
This was a special place. Tanya Malkin got permission for us to go to this place so that we could take photos of the boabs here, and it was very beautiful. We had no idea that it was full moon, so when the full moon came up, we were both like, oh, wow. It was really, really
Mieke. Like, you already know, I went up to spend time with her in June, July last year, so I know that's probably a sore spot for you because you would have loved to have done it, but she is one of the people that opened my eyes to the power and the importance and the respect of permissions more than anyone ever has. Because people fly up there and they go places that have no idea it's law country or women's country, and it's really not okay. Even in the Coburgs and places really close to Wyndham, that it's just really, really. I mean, I'm that kind of person anyway, but she educated me a lot more on the significance and the power of the Kimberley. It's a very powerful place. It's a very living place culturally, and you can follow channels to be respectful in that regards. And there are people that will accept and engage with you to give you that kind of knowledge if you just ask.
And I feel like the country rewards you for it. Like, I actually feel like when you've done the right thing, you get better photos. I know that sounds completely crazy, but I believe it.
Yeah, well, I know it, I think. And it's the kind of country that talks back as well.
Yeah.
Not to be sort of a bit freaky about it, but it's just powerful exchange and conversation with a place like the Kimberley. It's a very raw, powerful, aware kind of place in its own way, and it speaks strongly, and it has strong language, and it's a powerful place. And if you don't respect it, you'll probably find that you're going to get some feedback on that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it. We've got the other Kimberley show, so I think we talked about it a bit there. But you may never know who will be the person who suffers for you going in the wrong place, because it's not necessarily you that's going to suffer for that. So, which I had to live up there to learn. Yeah. But yeah, I've got a few more boab photos. Classic sunset.
Oh, wow.
With the boab nuts. A lot of people don't realize that the boabs have nuts, and
yeah, they're big.
Carved boab nuts are, one of the things that Aboriginal people up in the Kimberley, throughout the Kimberley, do really well. Beautiful carved boab nuts. Actually, that's the same group of trees. It's just the light. It's a few years later, but the light on them instead of behind them.
That's a solid tree.
And the good old Derby mudflats.
Oh yeah, I've only seen it from the air. I haven't been on ground level.
Yeah. And there's a couple of old Holdens out the back of the Derby airport that are worth a visit. It took me 3 goes to find them though.
Yeah,
It's not that simple to find.
Uh-huh.
And there's Mr. Banjo.
Is that a photo bomb?
Yes, and he is a photo bomber. Like he's
a classic.
He's not a model. I was taking the
Come
photo
on.
of the car, and he was like, "I'm in this shot." I had
Gorgeous.
to include a few of Banjo.
Of course you did.
Homage to Mr. Banjo. And he came at a pretty challenging time for me up in the Kimberley. So my friend called him my angel dog, and he's still my angel dog. But he's also a bit of a dork. We call him Pork Chop. Matt loves him too, but he's definitely a character. And that's my favourite photo of him. So one thing that happened while I was in Derby that was, I guess, helpful to my development as a photographer was they opened a new cafe, the Indulgence Cafe, and they asked me if I wanted to put my photos in there. And it was only supposed to be a few months, but ended up being a few years. And most people would know that when you put work in cafes, people admire it, but they very rarely buy it. That's a fact. But I ended up selling about 40 images, which is massive. And in terms of confidence building, astronomical. So it happened when they opened the detention centre just out of Derby. And so there were a lot of people who had moved to Derby to service the detention centre. And so, it was awful, but I certainly benefited from all the people who wanted to put Derby in their workplaces and in their homes at the time. So I was very fortunate, and I certainly don't take that for granted because there's very few people who are given that kind of opportunity. So that's my mum and my best friend Alex.
I think she's watching, isn't she?
Actually, I'm not. Is she? Yes, she's listening. Mum, do you want to say hello?
Yes, I'll say hello.
Oh,
Hello. We've been preparing for you tonight.
I tried to get on, but I don't know how to do it.
That's right. We're hearing you. That's fine.
Oh, that's good. I tried to press a few buttons earlier, and I lost you all, and so I thought I better not do any more. So.
Hi, Mum.
Hello, darling.
I'm enjoying that accent.
Thank you.
you must be very proud of your daughter.
I certainly am.
Yeah. She's a gem. You've done well.
You told her everything she knows.
He's done well.
And I'm very grateful to Mum because she has supported my photography from day dot. She supported my art before my photography.
Well, did you mention that you got the camera from them as well?
Yep.
So that says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a mum's story. My mum basically always said to me, why do you take photos of trees and rocks? Like, you mean landscapes, Mum? Yeah. Like, oh my God, how do you respond to that? And then she saw my passion and she helped me get my first camera. So hats off to mums.
Yeah, yay to mums. There
Yay,
she is,
mums.
Mum.
Yeah.
We can see you.
Oh, there she is. Oh, there you go. Beautiful. Oh,
But Mum, you have to speak if you want people to see you.
Oh, you got to turn your.
There we go.
There you
Say
go.
something.
Okay.
There we go.
You're speaking, and so I'll stay very quiet. Nice to see you all.
Thanks for joining
You
us.
too, Mum.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So yeah, back to so then I moved to Broome. So after 2.5 years in Derby, I moved to Broome. So I'll just share some Broome photos. Of course, you have to have the classic. Yeah, but
Camel train. Yeah.
It's classic, but it's still really spectacular every time.
it is, unless there's a drone overhead going. Anyway, pet peeve.
Didn't see one when I was there. Nice. How would you describe Broome? It's a pretty unique place to live, and there's nothing quite like it. How would you describe it to people?
Well, so I was actually expecting to not like Broome because when I'd lived in Derby, there's this big rivalry between Derby and Broome. And everyone in Derby said that Broome was shallow, you know, no one hung around for long, you know, it's very superficial and
Transient place.
transient, yeah. And the transience is for legit reasons. It's tough to live in the Kimberley. Like it is not an easy thing to live in the Kimberley. The wet season might be spectacular, but it is so humid and so hot and everything bites. You've got sandflies, you've got mosquitoes, you've got march flies as big as a 10-cent piece. It's not pleasant. It's very unpleasant. Coupled with that, you've got, you know, there's a lot of cultural issues up in the Kimberley and there's no avoiding it. It's not easy. And you know what you're used to, all your cultural, you know, I'm just going to go to the supermarket and get this. I'm just going to go to Bunnings and get, well, that doesn't, you can't do that. There isn't those things there. So you get used to being very resourceful, and some people can hack it and some people can't. And that contributes to the transience. But what I found when I moved to Broome was Cable Beach, that whole beach where it's just constantly shifting tides. And when the tide goes out, it's like the sky is underneath you and it's that endless horizon feeling. And especially in the wet season, when there's only a handful of you down the beach walking your dogs, it's amazing. You're getting this kind of show. I should keep going because there's more photos. But you're getting this kind of show just about every day, and every day is different. It's just absolutely spectacular. And most of the time you have it to yourself because it's not the time of the year that people can stomach the Kimberley.
It's not for the faint of heart or the lack of strong constitution.
But it's a fantastic place, and I'm so fortunate that I've lived I've lived in Wyndham, Derby and Broome, and I'm very grateful to have had the chance to live in all three places. They're all very different. But by the end of 10 years, I'd had enough of the heat and humidity.
Yeah, it's the wet season is, oh my God, I don't know how I go in a wet season. I've had plenty of time up there in the dry, but not in the wet.
Oh, you can forget when you're seeing this. You know, it's pretty epic. You can, like, what I mean is you
say that.
Well, you can put yourself through hardship to get this kind of, yeah. I do have to, no, I don't, because I'll be talking till Christmas if I do that. So I want to talk about aerials.
Oh yeah.
So the way I fell into aerials was because I did a workshop with Christian Fletcher at Home Valley Station, again with Tanya. And one of the things that they offered as part of that workshop was a flight over the East Kimberley mudflats. And unfortunately, either the advice that was given for my camera settings was insufficient, or I just didn't hear it. But regardless, when I went up, my camera was not on the right settings for aerials. And I came back, like, you can see how excited I am. I had the best time. I was in ecstasy about this flight, but I came back and looked through my photos on the back of my camera, and there was only maybe one or two that were sharp. All the rest of my photos were blurry.
It would have been devastating.
It was a bit slow, or
pardon?
Shutter speed,
my shutter speed was and only a fraction too slow, so not slow enough that I could see that there was a problem when I was looking at the back of my camera, but only when I zoomed in to 100% and went, oh no. Fortunately, there was one photo that was worth keeping, and that was that one on the right. Yeah. And my mouse, I've got a new mouse. Matt suggested I buy the expensive one. And
your fault, Matt.
Driving me mental.
Yes.
Oh, and I can't change it. I went online to look at the software to see if I could change it, and it won't let me change it. Anyway, doesn't matter. That was a pretty special shot, and it made me really want to do aerial photography, but I had to wait a while, and and part of it was the excitement of flying. So I just wanted to quickly brush on my sporting history, because that's why I think I love aerials so much. So I used to be a rower. That photo bottom right is me as a coxswain. My dad's passion was rowing, and I picked that up from him. And I actually went to America on a rowing scholarship for 4 years. And the pinnacle was winning the Henley Regatta in England, which is the photo top right, which was a pretty big deal. But I also did bobsleigh, which was pretty nuts. So I've always loved adrenaline sports. And when I went up in the helicopter for my first aerial shoot, it combined the best of both. It combined the artistic side of things and seeing nature in its most spectacular form, but also the thrill of flying. And I think that's why I've loved aerial photography right from the beginning. And then
I was blessed to get a hands-on session with Tanya flying over those flats. So she knows every single whisker of that place, like probably no one on the planet. From a photographic perspective, and it's rarely so as I get to sit back and let somebody else take charge, and I just sit back going, "Oh, this is nice," that I just did, and it was absolute bliss. God bless you, Tanya. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, she is. So yeah, then I got a visit from Sheldon Petite, and actually Stuart Westmore came up, and I didn't get to meet Stuart, but Sheldon and Nigel Gaunt did a flight, and I was very jealous because I'd seen them do it before, and I said to them, if you ever go up again, you better let me know. And then next thing you know, they were posting photos of Roebuck Bay, and they hadn't got in touch with me, and I was very stroppy, and I was about to message Sheldon and say, oi, not fair, when he messaged me and said, hey, we're flying tomorrow morning, do you want to come? So so I said, yes, please. And these were some of the photos of the shallow area in Roebuck Bay.
Three of you in the same craft.
Sorry?
3 of you on the same flight?
Yeah. Nigel, Sheldon and myself.
Turns?
It was great.
Did you shoot out was it chopper, like either side, or?
Yeah, so it was 2 sides and then beside the pilot.
Gotcha.
Like an R44 or something.
Yeah, R44. So we did have to go back around the opposite direction. So for those
people aren't familiar with it, you generally shoot out the same side of the plane, because otherwise the person on the other side's like, what about me?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was pretty specky, and some of these photos, even though they're back from like 2000
they'll stand the test
or something like that
forever, Mieke.
I guess that's one of the great things about aerials, isn't it? Because of the abstract nature of it, they are pretty timeless in that sort of sense.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing these for the first time in these glass blocks, Mieke, in some places years ago, and they just sing at you.
This one, do you know the artist Keith Haring? He was really popular in the 80s. He did like this graffiti art. And if you Google him, you'll understand what I mean, but this looks just like his artwork. Can you see? So the thing that I love most is when you can find things in aerials. So can you see anything in this one?
You can see the body.
Yeah.
Lots of bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
3
one's
people
called...
from behind.
Yeah.
Looking at their backs.
Exactly. And it reminds me of, you know how the Renaissance artists used to do like wash paintings before they did their masterpiece to practice on muscles and sinews and that kind of thing? Yeah.
Yep, gotcha. Looks perfect.
Absolute classic.
So that one obviously is a tree. This one, I get so many different responses. Can you guys see anything?
Tadpoles, fish.
So yeah,
sort of bird footprint. Yeah.
Yes, bird footprint, emu footprint, dinosaur footprint. Can you also see up here on the right? There's like a ball.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, I have to keep going because I've got other photos to show. So now these are aerials from Karitanda Lake Air.
Oh, yeah.
That one's my favorite because it's a bird taking flight.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
These ones are from Feathertop Bay. That one to me is an hourglass representing the insane number of years that Aboriginal people have lived in that area. That one's called In the Beginning. That one just trips me out every time because your brain refuses to see that as flat. It sees it as a shadow, and it's not.
Mm.
And that one I think of as the Great Wave off Kanagawa from Hokusai. And then these ones are just abstracts. This is from Lake Lefroy. Okay, Patagonia.
I'll just mention before you go on, we'll just say anyone watching, if they want to see more of the Kimberley, they can go back to our episode number 30, where Mieke joined us with Tanya Malkin, and you'll be able to see everything on the Kimberley. It's a great show.
Oh, it was magic. That was such a good show.
This thing, I thought I'd throw that in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Episode 30 it was. So, feel free to go back if you haven't seen it and you want to see more of Mieke's great work and Tanya's great work as well.
Perfect. Patagonia.
Patagonia. So I went there in 2017 on a tour with Ignacio Palacios, who's a good friend of yours. And he, took me to places that I would never have seen otherwise. There was a whole kerfuffle at the beginning. Most people remember me as the one who arrived late because I left my passport at home.
Oh, no.
Oh, that old chestnut.
But yeah, it was an incredible trip, and I was amazed at what I saw. But again, I was still very heavy on the tonal contrast those days.
Oh, that looks windy.
It's very windswept, yes, but actually when we were there, it wasn't too bad.
I was going to say, I spoke too soon. I realized that's a rapid, not the wind.
And some photos of Namibia. I went to Namibia on a tour with Hogard Milan, who
we want to have him on the show too.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on the show one day.
He's a good friend of Alex.
Yeah, I think that's I think he introduced Alex to the that area that he talked about. I can't remember the name, but yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how that all came about.
Yeah, and I'd love to meet Hogard.
He's a great guy, really. So I have only met a handful of South African men, and many of them are not all that supportive of independent women. And I was expecting on that trip to have to bite my tongue a bit, and it just wasn't the case. Hogard Milan and Isaac Pretorius, who ran that workshop, were so supportive, like over the top supportive of me as a photographer. And, there were periods where they were giving the basics and they would just let me go off because, I really didn't need to be there. And they'd say, go off, just be back here at this time. And it was just magic. It was so special.
Oh, that's cool.
Superb.
Yeah.
Oh, that was from the video.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
The what do you call it, Mum? The what train does John call it?
You were pushed yourself off.
Yeah, you just turned yourself off, Mum. You were on before.
There you go.
Push me, pull me.
Push me, pull me. That's right. Yeah. So it's got two heads.
That's just both ways. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then this was visiting Coleman's Cop. Yeah. That was amazing. And if it was in Australia, there's no way any photographer would be allowed to go in there because there's broken glass and nails and all sorts of stuff in that sand. And you do need a permit to be there at certain times of the day, which we had. It was just amazing. It was like a photographer's playground.
There's quite a few buildings, isn't it? So it's just more than a couple.
Yeah, it really is like a giant playground. You can just wander for hours. And then my favorite place, which was why I really wanted to go, was Deadley. And these camel thorn trees have been dead for like 300 years, but their wood is so hard. It used to be a wetlands, And so it was, you know, verdant and lush, and then the dune moved over time and cut off the water source. And so that clay pan is like chalk. You know, there's no moisture in it whatsoever. And that big orange dune is gigantic. It's absolutely massive. And the first time I went there, it was a 40-degree day. It was stinking hot. But when we got there, there'd been a fair bit of wind, and I could see that there weren't a lot of tracks through the sand to get there. And I was like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be if I was the only person there? So I pushed it so hard to get there. And I came over the crest of the hill and I had it all to myself. Dead Vlay, all to myself. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how much that made my heart just burst. It was just a dream come true. And these trees are, you know, there's more than what you expect. There's only a few that are really recognizable, and some of them are a bit, you know, looking a bit dodgy because they're old. But wow, what a place.
Very unique landscape.
It's very surreal. And then I was fortunate enough to go on a flight over Walvis Bay, and because of my previous experience with aerials, I was keeping an eye out on the patterns in the bottom of the delta, river delta there, as I entered the sea, and then these flamingos flew underneath us. I was like, oh, awesome. So Norway came about because I met Jens on that 2014 trip to Indonesia, and Jens invited me to come and visit him in Norway. And I was a bit hesitant because we'd only spent, you know, 10 days together. But then he showed me a photo of his house with the aurora over the top. And I was like, I'm coming. So he and his wife, Elizabeth, are the loveliest people. I love them to bits. I miss them so much every New Year's, because that's where I spent 3 of my New Year's.
Wow.
And they welcomed me so much. And this is out the front of their house. That mountain is Storvagasind, and it's part of the Lingen Alps, and that's the Lingen Fjord. And basically I would spend the daylight hours, there's no actual sunlight, but I would spend the daylight hours just wandering beside the fjord, trying to find rock pools and all that kind of stuff. And every day would change, either it would be frozen or clear, or there'd been snow. It was just fantastic. And then at night, that's some more of how it changed. At night, it was
straight up. Straight up.
Sorry,
oh, shooting straight up.
Yeah, with the 15 mil. So this is like fully across the sky.
It feels like when it feels like it's just going to come down on you, like it's raining down. It's just the most amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I try to describe. It's hard to describe. I think anyone who's seen it understands it's just so foreign, but it's so spiritual. Like it makes you feel tiny, but it makes you feel like this show is being put on just for you. It feels like it's choreographed, but of course it's random. Like it's the way that it dances, it flickers, it curtains, it changes color, it shoots across. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you need to. I always say it's like the thing that people probably don't have in their bucket list that should have if they haven't got it on there already, because it's just one of those things that just blows your mind like nothing else.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that it's so visible, because, you know, like, yes, of course it's more intense when you take a 20-second or even an 8-second exposure of it, but to the visible, it is visible, very visible to the naked eye in the dark night. It's amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just a million times better than what you see in Tassie because of that. But they're just not far south enough.
Yeah,
we see it differently, Luke.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't see it straight up. That's for sure.
So then I've got a couple of landscape photos of Iceland, but I actually went to Iceland with Tanya specifically for aerials. So I literally have 2 photos of the landscape. Matt teases me all the time. I've got at least 3 years worth of shoots that I haven't processed because I just haven't had time. But now that the gallery is my job, now I need to make time to process. So there's a stack of Iceland landscapes that I'm looking forward to processing.
Wow,
but the
that's
aerials
amazing to see those.
Thank you. The aerials is what we went for, and the aerials is just what blew our minds. So these are the braided rivers, and as the glacier comes down the mountain, it grinds up the rock underneath, and the rock stays suspended in the water, so you get this milky water. And as it heads out to the ocean, it just fans out across these very flat deltas for, hundreds of kilometers, and you just get these incredible patterns.
Mate, did you mainly focus on the southeast, Mieke? Or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right across the south, really. Yeah.
Is there a particular time of year, Mieke, there that is better for seeing these sort of patterns?
I honestly don't know. That's a really good question for Serena.
You just winged it.
Yep. Well, basically the reason we went then was actually because I'd been invited to judge one of these salons in Germany, and so I was like, okay, well, if I'm going overseas anyway, let's do this so that it's all one trip. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
Oh, what are those yellow things?
The big grass.
Some kind of vegetation. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
A bit like spinifex grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're funky.
Yeah.
You're only shooting 85, Mieke?
No, actually, I shoot with the
100?
Prime
100?
100. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. No, Tanya's at 85, isn't it?
Yes, she is. Which is good because it means that we can fly over the same spot in the same aircraft and get different photos. So this one doesn't look like much of anything, but I made this into something that I want to share.
It's one of my favorites, actually.
And I want to see if you can see something in it.
Oh my God. I don't know whether to be excited or scared of that one.
Is that like a shark?
It's a rabbit.
There.
Oops. Oh,
Is that like the Donnie Darko rabbit?
That's its nose. That's its nose there.
Oh,
yeah.
yes,
Eye
yes,
there,
yes.
An eye there, and it's got like a love heart on its forehead.
Armadillo or something to me.
No.
No, it's a rabbit.
I was going to say the Scream mask.
Jeez.
I'm being teasing. No, that's all. Yeah, that's awesome. You're right. It is a rabbit.
I wanted to include some of my aerials that I've done a little bit of work to. So usually, as you know, my philosophy about landscapes is I want to show reality because I want to show nature in all its glory. But with aerials, I think it's a bit different because it's nature's artwork and you can work as a team, if that makes a bit more sense. So I feel quite happy to do a bit of extra work on my aerials because I feel like I can bring to life something that's not recognizable as anything else. If that makes sense.
It's already abstract as it is,
Yes.
isn't it? So it doesn't, it's taking it further.
So this one, I see a love heart, and I actually see a woman's face in profile looking down. It's a very stylized face in the middle there. And then when I went back to the original file, I noticed something. There's actually a face down here too. It's like a Roman guy. Whoops.
Yeah.
See, stupid mouse.
Yes.
So annoying.
It's really good to see those.
Well, they're in animation.
Can you
It's
see him?
fantastic.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now this one is a spot that you may recognize because it is quite heavily photographed now, but it's basically an area where the braided rivers interact with elements of sulfur and iron, so you get yellow and red. This one's called Flames of Ice, but if you look at it sideways, slightly different photo, but same area, there's a dragon. And not everyone can see the dragon, so I want to point it out. There's his eyeball. There's his eyeball and his nose and his mouth, and he's breathing fire, and he looks kind of a bit like a camel rather than a dragon, but dragon. And once you've seen his eyeball, you recognize the dragon. Now, when I entered this in the AIPP Awards, no one talked about my dragon, and I was very disappointed. So when I went to enter the panel awards, I squashed him, and then I think they could see my dragon. But once you've seen the eyeball, that's the key, right? So even when you go back to this one, now you can see the dragon. And the problem I have now is all the photos that I've taken from this area have the dragon in it. And I can't ignore him now because once you've seen him, he's there. But anyway, and then this is another one. So I took this and I saw that it had a heart. There. And my dad was undergoing open heart surgery at the time. And I realized how important the heart is and how interconnected everything is to the heart. Not the metaphorical heart, but the actual pumping heart that's an organ in your chest. And so I wanted to highlight that in this image. And so I made this. And so I colored the heart red so that you could really clearly see the heart. And hopefully it conveys that connectedness, that source, that centeredness of the heart.
It's a beautiful image.
Thank you. Morocco. So then Mustafa had been inviting me after this Indonesia trip for like 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And well, what's 2014 to 2019?
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. So he'd been inviting me for 5. I can't believe how long it took me to figure that out. It was 5 years of him inviting me. And finally I was like, yes, Mustafa, I'm coming to Morocco. Yay. So he took me all around Morocco and it was amazing. So this is Chef Hoelen, which is the blue Medina. It's the whole Medina is painted blue. It's amazing.
What's a Medina?
An old, I think it was originally fortified, but it's made out of that compacted mud. There's a word for that.
It's very photogenic.
It's stunning. And I do, people have asked me, I do want to run workshops there, definitely. And Mustafa wants to do it with me. We just have to wait till this COVID stuff sorts itself out.
Oh, yeah.
It's an amazing place. And of course, what I really wanted to see was the Sahara, the mighty Sahara Desert. So we spent a bit of time in the desert. One day I want to do a whole exhibition of dunes, because I've got dunes from all sorts of places now.
I want to get to the Gobi Desert.
Yes, me too. And I went to Death Valley when I was
Hell yeah.
before I was a photographer, and now I really want to go as a photographer.
Oh,
okay, so New Zealand. I can't
talk.
talk about New Zealand without mentioning Matt.
Aotearoa.
I have to mention Matt at this point.
Oh,
So
Hey.
Matt came into my life during COVID. I'll tell the short story. The short story is I'd given a presentation for the AIPP. I'd been quite honest and it was quite raw. And he was in Tas and he was like, well, after that, it's kind of a bit rude to just, say goodbye. And then she goes back to isolation and has no one to talk to. And so he just sent me a message and said, hey, if you want to I'm sure you're sick of talking, but if you feel like a debrief, I'm happy to have a chat on Zoom. And I was like, great, let's grab a glass of wine. So we went back on Zoom and talked for 11 hours. Now, neither of us have ever done anything like that. Like, I don't even know what we talked about. He has no idea what we talked about, but we have found plenty to talk about for 11 hours. And he is absolutely my soulmate. I'm convinced of it. I love him to bits. He's a photographer, an incredible photographer. I've learned so much from him. And I just feel like the luckiest person in the whole universe to have found him.
Is me and Luke giving you a nice visit up the East Coast?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was us.
It's funny that photograph came up on my phone yesterday. Funny enough.
Oh, it wasn't that long ago, was it? Yeah.
No, it was probably this time last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time last year. Yeah.
We're coming back from the Bay of Fires.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Looking on at the Bay of Fires.
So yay, Matt. He can't he can't be on the same bandwidth as me, because then our internet's not strong enough for him to stream it and me to be on it. So I think he's actually watching tomorrow.
He's allowed to do walk-ins, isn't he?
Sorry, Paul.
He's allowed to do walk-ins, though, isn't he?
He's
walk in the room.
No, definitely not.
Not after all the mouse bashing, that's for sure.
I know. He's going to be shaking his head at me. So we got to go to New Zealand last year, and we were so lucky. Literally, the day we flew out, they shut off all travel to New Zealand. The travel bubble burst. There was no travel allowed between Australia.
You got so lucky.
Was that coincidental, Mieke, or did you actually make a quick exit?
I missed it by a day.
No, we flew out. We'd done all the testing and everything. We flew out, and then when we arrived at the other end, we found out they'd cancelled the rest of the flights that night.
Oh.
I think there was 6 or 7 of us flying over to judge from Australia, and you guys are the only ones who made it.
I know, and we had actually declined the invitation to judge because we didn't feel like we could. We were supposed to go on a trip with Chris Saunders
That's right.
as soon as we got back. So we had this whole trip to
that's
Icara
awesome.
Flinders Ranges planned. And so
Yeah.
we were like, thank you so much for the invitation, but we just can't do it. And then because of COVID and because of WA, South Australia borders closing, we had to cancel the Icara Flinders Rangers trip. And then they got in touch with us again and said, we've lost all our judges. And can you do it? And we were like, yes, please. So we stayed on, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I was excited for you guys, but I was bummed as hell.
I know I felt sick when I found out how many of you couldn't come. I really
Yeah, we freaking tried, I'll tell you. We tried everything.
And I felt really bad for Jacinta with all her prints and Chris with his prints. Oh, it was just awful. Anyway, so these are some of the photos that I was very fortunate to get on that trip. And of course, when we came back the other end, lockdown happened, I think 3 days after we got home or something like that. So yeah, we were very lucky to be right in the middle. These photos were taken.
Like an island. Is it an island, Mieke, or just a peninsula?
No, it looks, yeah, it's a peninsula, but with the fog, it looks like an island. And I made Matt take me back there like 4 different times because I wanted this photo. I briefly saw this photo and then the light disappeared and it was just overcast and, you know, not worth photographing. So we went back several other times so that I could get this shot.
It's sort of around the Twizel area, that kind of area? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is this. And I have to mention, we caught up with Jackie Rankin and Mike Langford, and they are absolute legends. And it was such a privilege and a pleasure to spend time with them.
So they're the two of the bastions of landscape photography in New Zealand for decades now, in case you didn't know.
Oh, wow.
God, how was it funny a lens? Wiping it every 0.5 seconds.
Sterling Falls.
Oh, that looks like it looks like it blow off your feet.
Sorry?
That looks like it could blow you off your feet.
It was pretty intense. But yeah, you're right. We did have to wipe our lenses, and actually the first time we went there, Matt had been there before, but I hadn't. And so when we came around that corner and into the falls, I was so busy taking photos that when we went away, I realized I hadn't really seen the falls, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I was just photographing them and I was like really disappointed in myself, but also like I was like, well, what choice did I have? You can either photograph it or view it. It's just so like,
it's pretty overwhelming.
It's so full on. And so Matt was like, well, we can come back. I'm like, yeah. Okay. So we literally got off the boat, went back to the booking thing and booked the next one and went on the next one.
Oh, it's off a boat. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Big cruises, yeah.
Haven't you been there, Paul?
I've been there, but I haven't gone on the boat trip.
Oh, yeah.
I went kayaking, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went there on my honeymoon back in 2007. So we went on the obligatory cruise, and went under the waterfall. And I took lots of photos, but I was a bit raw with my photography then, and they're not the best.
This was 25 years ago for me, so yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't find it easy. You know, if you don't know your camera, I think it's difficult to get a really good shot there. But wow, what an experience! Look, I would say if you're not that comfortable with your camera settings, just go and experience it. Don't even try and take a photo because it's just really wow.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing place, Milford Sound. Have you been to Doubtful Sound, Mieke?
No.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I did that one as well, Nick.
Yeah. Oh, it's an amazing place. I'll definitely go back there when I get back over to New Zealand sometime in the future. I have to apply for another passport. I've only had one, and that was just to go to New Zealand for my honeymoon.
Make sure you catch up with Will for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Will Patino, yep.
Yeah, definitely a few people catch up with that.
Actually, I was one of the things I was meant to be doing in New Zealand is walking the Milford track with my family literally 10 days ago.
Oh, Paul.
One of the many things before going to Great Barrier for 2 weeks, which I just got back from last night.
Barrier. Oh.
So I'm like,
oh wow, that's a bitter pill. Yeah.
It was a bit of a. That's why I went bush. I'm like, right, got invited to go bush with 10 men. I'll get my mind off it for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So AWOL, no phones, no internet, nothing else. Focus on something, and it was really special. But oh my god, I miss my family so much. 2.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
Anyway, like
I'm sending you a big hug, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, babe. I think I need it actually. Oh, I pretend I never called you babe or darling or anything ever. I hate that. Sorry.
We can edit that bit out.
I edited it out. Yeah. Thank you, Mieke. I really appreciate
No problem. All right, so let's shoot for the rest of the New Zealand shots quickly and cut Paul's
yeah, bro.
torture short.
Foot and mouth disease. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this was Moke Lake, and it was frosty.
Wow.
It was beautiful.
What do you call it? Moke?
Moke.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
near Queenstown.
Near Queenstown.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I had to include a Wanaka tree shot just because you have to include.
They really hacked that thing, didn't they?
Yeah, they
did.
did.
Not a patch on where it was.
Looks a bit different.
It's still a beautiful tree. I
I've
still
never
love
shot
it. It's
Someone actually did what you were threatening to do with the Binalong tree with a saw.
Yeah. Oh, that sorted itself out, that tree.
Yeah.
itself out.
Yeah, one day it'll
R.I.P.
collapse and everyone will have to go and photograph something else.
I
won't
don't think I've been to Queenstown like 20 times and I've never even seen the tree. I haven't even gone there.
they? No, well, again, I went there in my honeymoon. A funny story, actually. We were at a caravan park, which was another 10 kilometres, I think, up the lake. It was sort of right round the side, the same side that the trees on. You sort of keep going round. There's a caravan park, and we're in a camper van. And I wanted to go there for sunrise, but we're 10 kilometres away. And my wife didn't want to get up, so she stayed in bed in the caravan. I drove the camper van with her in the bed to the car park and went and took a picture of it at sunrise. Not a great shot, but there was no one else there, like literally no one else.
Oh, yeah, right.
It was. Yeah, I said it was. Yeah, so 15 years ago now.
I think people were talking about it on Redbubble back in the day. I remember seeing something about it and how amazing this tree was, and I think it was sort of emerging as a location at the time.
I think it was. I'm just trying to think if it was Mel Braxton or Mel.
Yeah, I saw Mel
Smith.
Braxton post about it.
It was Mel Braxton's photos that I saw of it, and I thought, geez, that's a great photographic subject, and I'm going to New Zealand for my honeymoon, so I better go and have a look at that. And but it was, it certainly wasn't as popular a photographic subject back then, but clearly the influence was there. Any photographer that saw pictures of it went, oh, I've got to go and visit that.
So it won so many awards. Every competition, there was a Wanaka tree in the top 10 or something.
Yeah, until
Had its own category.
But also, I have to mention that Mel Braxton's work was hugely inspirational to me. She was one of the POTDers.
Oh, right.
I asked her to be my mentor, and she was a bit hesitant to do it because I think she'd been asked quite a few times in the past. I'm like, I'll be good. And she was fantastic right through, she really was someone I could look up to as a female landscape photographer. She's certainly branched out and followed her heart, and now does some incredible fine art nude photography. And she's just a very, very talented photographer, but it was definitely her landscapes that inspired me in the beginning.
No, I was similarly influenced. I can't even say it, by her work back in the day, she's certainly a lovely lady too, and she normally comes down to the focus on the focus.
Yes.
It's She I don't know how long she's been taking photos, but a lot longer than any of us.
Definitely. And she's got an incredible catalogue of images. But she's she just does her thing. You know, she's not particularly about getting accolades, or she's got a profile on 1X. If anyone wants to see her work, you can look up Mel Brackstone on 1X. And you know, she's got some amazing work on there.
Yeah. A lot. She's definitely really into the nudes, but you know, from a fine art point of view, and weird sort of
lens
lenses,
baby stuff.
lens babies and homemade lenses.
Yeah, she had a homemade lens baby before, like Lens Baby was making lens babies. She's very creative and very artistic. Like every bone in her body is artistic.
Brackstone, Tone, or
Brackstone.
Yeah.
Oh, CK.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a couple of aerials and then I'll stop torturing you, Paul. So these are my last two photos from New Zealand. Two of my favourite aerials. This one is over the Godley River system as it enters Lake Tekapo, and I just absolutely love the colours. This one, when printed, looks like a watercolour painting. If it's printed on fine art cotton rag, you swear it's not a photograph. And this
Where
one,
did you fly out of, Mieke, when you did those flights for?
Yeah, that was an interesting story. So my dad had his 70th birthday in New Zealand, and we all went over for a family trip, and they treated us to a flight from...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. A flight around Lake Tekapo and over Aoraki, Mount Cook, you know, that whole loop. And as we were coming back to, what are they called? I always credit them when I post and I've forgotten off the top of my head. It's the main Tekapo air safaris. There you go, air safaris. So they're right on the edge of Lake Tekapo. So we did the tour with them, and then as we were coming back to land, I saw this and I was like, oh, and I saw this, more importantly, that one, and I was like, oh my god, and all the way home I'm raving about it, and John said, I think you need to book a chartered flight, so that you can actually take some photos. So I gave them a call and I said, do you do it? And they were very hesitant, and I was like, I'm a professional aerial photographer. And they explained that their hesitance was because they were sick of people flying with them, not knowing anything about aerial photography, not being able to get the photos, and then blaming them on social media for their shit
Damn you,
shots.
pilot.
So I understand their reluctance, but very grateful that they agreed to take me. But yeah, that's so air safaris, Lake Tekapo was fantastic. So this one's actually a 3-shot pano put together, and it was one of the photos that did really well in the Pano Awards. Really wasn't expecting, because the Pano Awards, that tends to be quite similar shots that make the top every year. And I don't take shots like that, so I was not expecting anything. So it was a huge shock to get that. And thank goodness, because I got a printer, which means that I'm printing for the gallery.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, what was the printer again, Mieke?
The P7070 Epson.
Oh, a decent size one.
Yeah, 24-inch.
Oh,
that'd be similar to the one David Murphy's got, I think.
Yeah, it is. He's got a 24-inch as well. Yeah, that's the one he wrote about it. In fact, he hasn't changed the settings on it for 13 years, he said.
Whoa, that's amazing.
It's the same software. It doesn't change anything for 13 years.
Yep, that sounds like Murph.
And he prints beautiful work. So if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And I reckon he'd say that exactly the same way that you just
did.
Okay, so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about home, Bright and the Victorian Alps. So this is one of the cool little buildings in Bright. It's recently lost its front door. It's been abandoned for a long time, but it's on the main road as you come into town, and it's just a really cute little house. But yeah, it's falling apart quite quickly now. This is in front of Feathertop Winery, which used to be Boynton's of Bright, which Mum and Dad purchased as a cow paddock and then put all their blood, sweat and tears into for many, many years. And so these trees out the front. The trees on the left, my brother and sister and I planted when we were kids, and the trees on the right were planted later when the rail trail was installed. And it is the most popular spot for autumn tree photos in Bright. It becomes a car park. So the only way that you can get good shots is very early in the morning and hope for some fog and do long exposures, because otherwise there's going to be cars in your shot and people everywhere. But it is spectacular.
Would you say that Bright's one of the most popular in Vic for autumn photos?
Yes.
Yep.
Mm. So yeah, when you don't have a landscape, you paint your own.
Yeah. or
Well done, Mum and Dad. You've done well. Oh, that's fantastic.
So that ibis, really there, really by itself, really walking across the road.
Oh, if it was Matt's photo, it wouldn't be there.
No, it would be there, but he would have taken it a half hour.
Like putting in swans and photos, Matt, I've noticed, and cockatoos.
Yeah, but he's actually very careful about what birds he puts in photos. He never puts birds in photos that don't actually exist there. He'll try and capture birds at the location and put those birds in the shot, because then they could have flown across the photo.
Tongue very much in cheek.
I know. But sometimes they're real. The swan one at Milford Sound, that is a real swan really in that spot. Yeah. So this is autumn, and this has a cool story. Matt had only really just recently arrived. It was COVID, it was lockdown. You were only allowed to leave for 5 essential reasons. I did seek and get the stamp of approval that my landscape photography did count as essential work. So I was out there taking photos, but very conscious that anyone driving past wouldn't know that I'm a professional landscape photographer and would probably think that I'm flaunting the rules. So it was a very uncomfortable time. And sure enough, a ute pulled up beside us as we were shooting, and I was like, here we go. But no, it was the farmer. Her name's Anne. She's a legend. She said, do you want to go in? I said, really? There's biosecurity signs everywhere. We had Banjo with us. She's like, yep, all good, no worries. Go in there, go nuts. So we took her a print later. Because
yeah, of course. Yeah, wow.
Absolute legend. This one as well.
What perfect conditions for it. Yeah.
So this is Bright. That's why people go to Bright. Gorgeous little tree in your robin.
Fantastic.
This is Mount Buffalo. The next set of photos are all Mount Buffalo. I love Mount Buffalo. It is such a spiritual place. I didn't understand I had feelings of reverence towards Mount Buffalo even before I understood what the hell that meant. Like, I just didn't understand my feelings towards Mount Buffalo until I lived in the Kimberley. And then I was like, this is a spiritual place. This is a place that has deep connection with people. And sure enough, it was a site of ceremony. Groups from all over would come and harvest bogong moths up at Mount Buffalo. I love it. Mum loves it. It's a very, very special place. Matt loves it. Yeah. So here are some of my photos from magical Mount Buffalo. Oh, Aurora.
Oh, yeah.
We were out the same night, weren't we? Yeah.
Yep. So this is the cathedral.
The classic, yeah.
Yeah. We've got lots of photos of the cathedral. This is up at Falls Creek, the devastation of the fires. There's been multiple fires come through that area. So yeah, there's some areas that just don't grow. Wallace's Hut, just past the Rocky Valley Den bridge. The thing about Wallace's Hut, so everyone wants this photo. I wanted this photo. This was a bucket list photo for me. The thing is when it snows there, it's a dirt road.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, you go across the bridge, the Rocky Valley Dam bridge. And so as soon as it snows, they close the bridge because bridges freeze much more quickly than everything else because of Matt explained this to me. I didn't know this, but the cold water underneath freezes things much more quickly. And so you're in great danger of your car heading off the road and into the water. So they close it so that, you know, to avoid any kind of having to rescue people who, you know, got themselves in a bad situation. So basically you've got one shot, the first snow you can get through and get to here, because it's not a very far walk from the car park. It's, you know, really close. But then once the gates close all over Red Rover, you can't go there till next year.
It'd be a significant walk, would it, from the bridge?
Yes. I mean, you can do it. I know, I'm pretty sure Carl Strand did it. And he's, you know, mad keen hiker. So it's possible, and I'm sure you could do it, Luke. I'm sure you could do it, Paul, Nick, but not me. I'm not going to be hiking, you know, for a couple of hours to get to this when I can just try and get there on the first snow.
Fair enough.
Fantastic.
And this is magnificent Mount Feathertop.
Oh yeah.
So
nice
Becky
snow.
when it's covered in snow.
Mm.
This is Blowhard Hut up at Mount Hotham.
It's a beautiful hut.
It is.
Looks like, I said Ricardo, I think, got one of the, it looks like one of Matt's photos too.
What I like about this one is it's got a little,
about
it's got a little red tag on the door. So to me, it's just got that little bit of invitation, like come. It's not cold and sterile and go away. There's that little hint of come in. But we were really lucky. We got permission to go up to Mount Hotham during lockdown to photograph there. And that's why there's no car tracks or footprints around this. So, okay, that's all my photos. So if it's okay with you guys, I might just share a little bit about our exhibition and our gallery, and then we can just...
Please do.
Okay, so Matt and I
what a mission, during COVID, this whole
so we participated in the Ballarat International Photo Biennale, which was start, stop, open, shut. Couldn't actually hang for the official opening, but then it wasn't an official opening because of COVID. We did eventually hang it. We didn't get to have an opening, which was very disappointing. But actually, it's at Fairbanks Eye Gallery on Sturt Street in Ballarat, and they are allowing us to keep it there even beyond the closing date of the Biennale. So if you want to see, if you're in Melbourne and you want to see, or Ballarat, and you want to see this, it's still up. They are open every day from 9 till 5:30, except for Saturday, which is 9 till 1, and they're closed on Sunday. So a few people, including Mum, I think, has been there and missed out. But yeah, most of the shows have finished up now for the Biennale, but Photosynthesis is still up. And we really want to thank both Fairbanks Eye Gallery for their incredible space, because it's a great gallery, and also Epson, who sponsored the printing for us. So I did the printing, but Epson provided the paper and the inks, which was pretty awesome. So thank you, Epson, and thank you, Fairbanks. So this is just some of the photos included in the exhibition. I think it's 26 tree images. That came up with the name, which is brilliant, because it was photos, and it's the synthesis of our photos, and it's also trees. He's so clever.
It's very clever.
And you'll see, obviously, some of my tree photos, and Matt's tree photos are in there.
I'm
Did you just do them as hanging prints, or is there a backing on them as well?
Yeah, they're on foam core.
Foam core, yep.
To keep their, to give them a bit of strength.
Yep.
Yeah.
What sort of thickness?
5 mil, but what we're finding in the gallery, just we can talk shop a little bit. We're finding in the gallery, any kind of humidity doesn't work so well with foam core and prints that are fully adhesed. So we do need to squash them periodically. You can actually put another, so it's these ones I printed and mounted, and I didn't use the sticky foam core. I used acid-free double-sided hanging tape. But the ones in the gallery, we've got them professionally mounted, and they look fantastic because they're fully affixed to the foam core with the sticky surface. But yeah, that apparently a good idea to keep them flat is to put another print on the other side of it with nothing on it. to keep them.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
But the thing is as soon as it's in a frame, you're good to go. So we're just hoping that all of them will sell so quickly that it won't be an issue.
Yeah. Try the black core lightweight.
Okay, so here's our Alpine Light logo. Thank you, Matt. I was very picky about what I wanted in our logo, and he came up with the goods. So he designed that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's the before shots of our gallery. It was a travel agency. And the second to last shot is what it looks like empty. And then over on the right, you can see we did a fair bit of work to it. We put new flooring, paint, and this is what it looks like now. So this is our gallery.
So do you actually just, excuse my ignorance, do you rent the space or own the space?
No.
Which
no,
one?
we rent the space. Hopefully we'll own it one day, but no, it was a fantastic location, exactly where we pretty much wanted to have a gallery. And so we're so lucky to have it.
They mentioned on YouTube that it's in the main street.
It's on Gavin Street, across the road from the Bright Brewery and between the Bendigo Bank and Dr. Mauve. Unfortunately, it still has a big Hello World travel sign up the top, so people have a bit of trouble finding us, but that should be rectified within the next couple of weeks.
Oh, awesome.
But we just couldn't get anyone to do it before Christmas.
Oh, that's a bad time to do those sort of things.
No, and we do have to actually give a massive shout out to the tradies who helped us get ready for Christmas. They were amazing. We had Alpine Flooring do our floors. Raina the painter did our painting. Dave did our lighting. And these tradies, we wanted to promote them, and they were like, you don't need to, like, they're so booked out, they're so busy. We were just so lucky that we got fitted in, really.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Fantastic.
So Doug Porter said black core lightweight foam board. It's made. Do you know Doug Porter? He's an amazing photographer from He just suggested to try black core lightweight foam board by Brewery Acro. Anyway, you could probably talk to Doug about it yourself.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
Yeah, I'll be looking that up. I think it's an exhibition next week that I haven't prepared.
You're going to print it yourself,
some
Paul?
of the prints.
Yeah, I'm having a crack. Yeah.
So some of the prints are on the foam core. We're also obviously have loose prints of those images. That makes it a lot easier for people to have it posted home and then get it framed. But we also have a lot of our images on metal. So Chromolux aluminium, which is they infuse the image onto the recycled aluminium, which is fantastic. And we also have canvas prints, but they were so popular, our canvas prints, that we don't have any. We bought 2 big ones, and the one of them that was in the window, this one, that was out the door on day 2.
Wow.
And then we put this one in the window, and that was out the door a week later. So we're just waiting for our printer to steam back up after New Year's so that we can get some new big canvas prints.
Some pretty good feedback right there, isn't it?
Yeah, printer maker.
Our printer for most of these has been Inkjet Lab in Queensland. So the interesting thing is Russell, who was the organizer of the POTD website, he works at Inkjet Lab, and Mark Lutz, who he works with, is friends with Matt. So it just made sense for us to work with people that we've both known and whose work we've admired for quite some time. There are other more local printers that I'm happy to recommend, but they did a brilliant job for us. And but yeah, the initial printing we got done, and the metal is done by Print to Metal in Melbourne. So the initial, because there were so many to do, we got all of them done professionally. But I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to continue the printing for all the loose prints, except for the massive big ones like this one. There's no way I can print something that big, but these ones, they're 24 inches by 34 inches.
And then you're getting someone else to mount them for you in the end.
So Inkjet Lab are doing all the mounting.
Yep.
And the loose prints is me.
Oh, I've got, yeah, that's the whole point. Loose print. Yep. No, I'm with you.
So there's
Cool.
us.
Yeah, team. A little bit of glass up top there. That's a little bit of
Yeah,
glass.
There's
geez.
the cow and calf cup. You
Yeah.
can let
there you
Murph
go.
know.
Oh,
You can
Murph.
let
he'll be
Murph know that
stoked.
that's got pride of place in
Well, it
our
sure
gallery.
does. Look at that.
So that's a Vegas Week award. Yeah, see, it's such a small world, the photography world, isn't it? We're all connected.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you
that's
might
the
make
deep-
Vegas Week this year, or
No,
that'd
this
be hard
year.
with the
So
gallery?
last year, because we were so busy trying to get everything organized so that we could get away for Vegas Week last year, and we were so busy catching up when we got back, we completely missed autumn. And we need to be photographing autumn. So we've decided this year that we're going to have to give Vegas Week a miss, which we're really sad about, but there's just no way around it. We really need to be here for autumn this year.
Need the
Oh,
local,
yeah,
that's what the main part of the gallery would be, is the local work and that kind of thing. So it makes a lot of sense.
But as you can see, we've got local photos, but we've also got our, some of my aerials. We've got photos, some of Matt's most beautiful Iceland photos. We've got Queensland photos. We've got Tassie photos. We've got photos from everywhere. So we were very keen to ensure that it had a representation of our amazing area, but we were also quite keen to ensure that we got to show our best work, regardless of where that was taken.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is our website. If you want to go check out more, it's www.alpinelight.com.au. We don't have the products on there yet. Matt is working literally like every second that there's not someone in the gallery. He's putting together the products for purchase online. But at the moment, if you're interested in something that you've seen, you can just email us. That's not an issue. And our email, which I haven't got here, but you can get through the website, is gallery@alpinelight.com.au. And we've got, we've got a calendar that's still available. There's information about the photosynthesis exhibition there. There's information about our workshop videos, and also we both offer mentoring and one-on-one tutorials. And there's information about where to find us in that visit tab. So that's got all the information, just not the photos yet.
So you're going to sell your workshops through that page in the future, or you'll still have your own page as well?
No, I'll transition from my page to the Alpine Light page. We're in transition at the moment.
Yeah, no, cool. It's good to know. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mieke. It's probably a natural point actually to end the show because we're right on time. So so we really, really appreciate you joining us and showing all of your magnificent work, and also really exciting developments and what you've been working on. So make sure that if you're ever in Bright or in Victoria, get to Bright and visit the beautiful Alpine Light Gallery and support Mieke and Matt, who put everything they possibly have into their photography. Certainly well worth the support there. So anything else to add, fellas?
Yeah, I've got two things. I'm going to share screen really quickly because you need to meet somebody. Mr. Murph.
Oh, what?
I've got Murph here. Where is he? Here he is. He's the man himself.
Hey,
welcome to the gallery. He's a good-looking fella. So, I was just
That's
like,
great.
here, blue steel, Davey.
I was wondering what you were doing on your computer. That's awesome. Hey, Murph.
He's got those rugged good looks, isn't he?
He's an absolute character, and that's literally standing in the doorway of his gallery here at Cow and Calf. So I'll have to come and do a portrait of you guys, Mieke.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
The gallery, that'd be my pleasure. Also, this is the exhibition kind of cover shot between mine and Tom, and I just put the link in the chat. I haven't got YouTube up, Lukey. I'm always afraid I'm going to make that double noise feedback thing, so I don't know if you can copy that and throw that over there. I just put it on the bottom of the chat. So with COVID, you actually have to book the opening, and I've also got a 2-hour artist talk on the Sunday. Both are free. So Friday the 21st on the opening, of January down at Westwoods Community Centre in Woodbridge, just about half an hour south of town. Beautiful place, and I'll be there all weekends. And Sunday afternoon, 2 to 4, I'll be doing an artist talk, so you'll get to hear about how a lot of these got taken and the ethos behind it all, and you'll get to like I said, like same with you guys, Mieke, like we could hide away and not sort of bravely share what we would love and what we want to work in this time of restriction, or we could just say, you know what, let's just go for it because life needs to go on. So we decided to do the same with the exhibition, and just go for it regardless, and share it however we can, and people make their choices about attending and that not. I haven't heard from local Nick. They've been very quiet about attending what I think, so I don't know if they're coming.
Keep it a surprise, mate.
But I'll respect them either way, because it's a funny time, especially in Hobart, where things are changing for us down here, and we haven't really had to deal with it before. So not like you guys have, Mieke. So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's becoming a reality us for the first time. So it's a bit of a change. But decided that having the letting people fly with their imagination in a time of restriction is probably not a bad thing. So we're going for it. Anyway.
Good luck,
Paul.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
And can I just quickly say, I've just found the chat, and I just want to say, Doug, I can't wait for you to visit either. And Robin, I can't wait for BFOP either. That's going to be so much fun. The Bright Festival of Photography is in October, and it is a photography fest. It's literally a festival. It's brilliant. So anyone who wants to come to Bright to do photography with a crazy keen group of people, just look up BFOP Australia or Bright Festival of Photography, and you'll find out more. But that is so much fun. So little plug for BFOP as well. But yeah, and thank you, Anthony. I can't see the YouTube stuff, so if anyone's written anything,
Yeah, that were the Zoom comments for those people playing at home on YouTube. So
yeah.
Brilliant.
Absolute pleasure, Mieke. I'm
Yeah.
so glad we finally gave you the breadth of your own shows. You've been part of so many. And
I'm genuinely honored. I know I'm interrupting, but I'm so grateful. Thank you. It's it was really crazy to put together all my photos from the very beginning, and I really appreciate that you wanted to find out about them.
No, and one thing we probably didn't touch on a lot, but you are actually offering education still as well, and workshops and private Zoom sessions and things like that.
Yeah, so I do at the moment. It's just via Zoom. And I also have a series of videos that were my workshops. So they were my Zoom workshops. But because of the gallery, I stopped doing the Zoom workshops, and I recorded myself talking for 2 hours at a time with all, so it's like doing a workshop with me, and I provide full support with the handouts and all the rest of it. But instead of $70, it's 25. So
wow, that's
do one of
amazing.
my workshops for $25,
Yeah,
then the
that's
videos are on the website.
no brainer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
Awesome. Thanks, Mieke.
yeah.
I thank you. And
we
we were going to talk
for us.
What was that, Paul?
So big day to Maddie for us.
I will.
Yes.
I'll give him a hug from you
Oh,
guys.
man, I'm trying to see if he's round the corner, Maddie.
No.
Oh, he's
No,
not
not
allowed
there.
in. Oh.
All right. Well, we'll have to call it there, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Mieke, been an absolute pleasure. And we'll see you again same time next week for a bit of a rundown on what Nick, Paul and I have been up to over the break. And there's going to be some pretty cool stuff in there. So make sure you tune in. And if you could like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel, that'd be awesome. We're almost near the magic 1,000 number. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, have a great week, and we'll see you then. And thanks again, Mieke. See you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Good night.